Well, welcome to another Tech Talk with Paul and Al. Today it's only Al, and today is a repair/product report. And the product I'm going to report on and the repair I'm going to report on is the HP NV27 computer that I just recently bought. And I might call it the HP NV27 disaster, because that's basically what I had with it. I bought this brand new approximately 5 weeks ago, and I was wanting to use it for editing, and I thought it'd be really great because the computer is one of the touchscreen computers that it gives you the ability to, and here you are getting lost in it again. So I want to go out of this, and I'm going to try and exit. See, they don't make the exit easy to see, so I have to get the keyboard because it's stupid Windows 8, and I have to hit the Windows button and the X, and I go to desktop down here, and it brings me back to the desktop. And that's a nice little tip for those of you unfortunate enough to have Windows 8. You can always use the Windows button and the X, and it will give you a whole list of things that you can do to like closing down the computer, which they seem to want to hide, and so forth. And so anyway, but it's a touch screen, and so I can scroll down and look at all my apps and everything, which I found rather useful, and I was sort of excited about it. But I wanted, and here we go again, here's this arrow I don't want here, it's stuck here, because Windows thinks they need to do everything for you except what you want to do, especially in Windows 8. But I want to talk about the computer problems and not the Windows 8 problems. I bought this computer, it had a terabyte drive in it, and I was going to use it for video editing, which means I need to have an external drive, and I needed to have another monitor for it. But the problem was, you know, I wanted the best one I could get. This was the most expensive one that was for sale in the store. I went to Conn's, and it ended up costing me, with all the warranties and everything, about $1,800. So I started, you know, the first thing you do when you get a computer is you're going to populate it with your apps. So I started putting on my apps, including my video editing program and my Adobe programs and so forth. Well, what happened was, this particular computer started getting slower and slower and more sluggish. And I had a lot of video files on there I'd recently shot, and I was trying to transfer them to a backup drive, but it wouldn't let me. And also, it was having problems with the SDHC card. And it turns out that eventually it would give me several of these blue screens of death, which Windows has, and it would say that the hard drive failed. Okay, so into about week 3 of using this, at being a very sluggish brand new computer, which was embarrassing because the 6-year-old Dell I was replacing still works perfectly and still works faster than the brand new HP. Turns out that the brand new hard drive that they installed in this computer, when they made it, when they manufactured it, crashed and destroyed all the data. And as a matter of fact, it was systematically crashing along the whole time, and it eventually just crashed totally, and I lost a lot of video files because it wouldn't connect. It lost the drivers that would recognize external drives, and also it had a way of trashing your information on your SDHC. So I did a lot of video shooting and lost all that information because the computer was shipped from the manufacturer brand new with a bad hard drive. Okay, so I'm into 3 weeks on this computer, and it has a bad hard drive. And I went and I talked to the people I bought it from at Conn's, and I said I really need to trade this back in because it's got a bad hard drive. I know what it is. I know it's a bad hard drive, and I was concerned that, you know, they might take the easy way out and repair and just reinstall the operating system. And you know, that could have been worse, because I knew if they just reinstalled the operating system, I'd be going back to them every 3 weeks with the failed computer. And this computer was actually less than useful, because not only did it break down, but it also destroyed a lot of the work I was doing, including a few tech talks that were shot that are lost forever until we shoot them again, and several other projects that I was trying to use this computer, and I was hoping it would be a good thing to have this touch screen. Well, the touch screen on this has really low finger touch resolution, so it's good. Your finger touch is good for hitting those great big goofy Windows 8 little, boxes or chips or whatever you want to call them. But when it comes to doing minute things like working on a timeline of an editing program, or trying to do something in a CAD program, or trying to do something else, it's virtually useless. So basically, the finger touch resolution on this is so poor, if you happen to have a great big box, you can hit it. And if you actually touch it and there's something next door that's in a smaller area, it may activate the thing you didn't want to activate, and you'll go down that rabbit trail and have to get back to it, which Windows 8 loves you to do. And so anyway, I took it to cons and they worked on it, okay, and the technicians seemed fairly knowledgeable and very friendly and so forth. And so they reinstalled the OS. They put in a new hard drive, which I was very happy because I knew the hard drive was bad, and he agreed with me. And they put in an OS. So I get it back, and then I find, oh yeah, it's got the OS on it, but they failed to install all the drivers that make it work. I have an external, they give you an external DVD, they give you a DVD recorder external drive on this, and now the computer doesn't recognize it because it doesn't have the drivers. The Ethernet isn't working because it doesn't have the drivers. The Wi-Fi, the wireless, isn't working because it doesn't have the drivers. So consequently, I'm having to use another computer, download files to a jump drive, and then I hooked up the jump drive and found out, you know what? Didn't have the drivers for the jump drive, but I finally was able to find a jump drive that the Windows would recognize, got that working. And so now I'm in the process of having to find the drivers for this that wasn't installed when it was repaired, and then get all the apps back on it and see how it works. But I've been really concerned about it because I would start doing web searches on this, and all of a sudden it would go to the white milky screen of death and not work anymore. And now, mind you, I'm into 5 weeks on this computer, and a really weird thing is, when I first hooked it up, it wanted to go and install Windows 10, which I'm all happy with because, as you know, Microsoft has a history of making a really good operating system and then a really terrible operating system. So we went from XP to, I think it was Windows ME or some piece of junk like that. And then we made it to Windows 7, which was a good operating system, and Windows 8, which was what I considered a Microsoft joke to punish everyone that bought a computer, because it just traps you, it gets you in trouble. And if I wanted to have a touchpad, I would have bought a touchpad. I wouldn't have bought a computer. But I thought maybe this would be great, if you're doing like creative work and you're wanting to draw and so forth. But with the poor touch resolution, all you really can hit is a big chip, or a big little square box, a big square box on here, and make it work. So, I'm ending up having to do the mouse and the keyboard to do fine work on it. And what really bugs me is it still runs slower than my 6-year-old Dell. And so that's enough on that. So this is going to be part 1, of course, because I think this is going to be an ongoing story about this HP, whatever you want to call it, that was supposed to be fantastic, but really hasn't worked since the day I bought it. And I bought it with a payment plan, so I made 3 payments and haven't had a working computer, which is really sad. Another thing that I really didn't like about this computer once I got it was the base. Now see, it has a base and you can move up and down. This base is like a solid piece of lead, and it's very, very heavy. And this is not by any means any kind of portable computer. See, the neat thing was that you could bring it forward, and you could have it hanging off your side of your desk, where you could use it as a touchscreen computer. And with the poor touch resolution, what's the point? But anyway, if you just like hitting the goofy Microsoft tiles, and you're that limited in your ability to use a computer, maybe that's good for you. Another thing that really bugged me is it had a very limited amount of USB ports. And what was really sad was the USB ports and the audio ports are on the side, some of them, of the computer. And so consequently, you have this big old wad of wires hanging off the side of your computer when you're moving it around. That wad of wires is moving around with it. And the one thing that really ticked me off was it has that goofy cell phone type audio connection where it's a right-left audio and microphone all together. And so, if you want to separate your audio and a microphone, you have to put a splitter cable on here and then have even more wires hanging off the side. And so it was a really dumb design by HP. They could have done it. This was supposed to be an iMac killer. iMac has no chance of being killed by this. There is no comparison between the quality of work on an iMac and this. It has a touch screen with very limited, resolution, but I'd rather have an iMac any day. The reason I wanted this, I wanted a PC, was I'm using Sony Vegas. That's my video editing system of choice. Unfortunately, it works on a PC. And I thought, well, I'd have more fun with this, but that really bugged me. And so the other, that's one of the things I didn't like about the computer. So what else to say about it? It tends to run slower than even my 6-year-old Dell. It tends to lock up for no reason even after the hard drive was replaced, and I'm having to go through all of this to get it to work. And so, 6 weeks later now, I really don't have a working computer. Oh, but the weird thing I was going to tell you is I was installing, the first thing it did was ask me to install Windows 10. Okay, it began the process of installing Windows 10. It was downloading Windows 10 through a very slow Ethernet connection because of the poor driver that Windows had compared to the actual Ethernet electronics in the computer. So I let it try and download. It took 7 days to download Windows 10. And then when it finally downloaded Windows 10, because it was stopping and starting, stopping and starting, it lost it somewhere and it would never install it, and you couldn't find it to install it. And I want to go to Windows 10 because obviously it's got to be better than Windows 8, but I don't want to put any apps on here because, as we all know, if you have a Windows device, when you upgrade, you're going to lose everything you installed in the previous version, most likely. Once in a while it works, but most of the time it's just going to trash whatever you had on there. The other thing that I really didn't like about this was it has the Beats audio system. Okay, they give it a fancy name, Beats Audio, but it is mediocre at best as far as the sound quality. I'm doing video editing, and what I did was I hooked up an external amplifier and 2 JBL 4311B control monitors, and then I had to get the little splitter on the side to get the right audio out. And so I had this big wad of wire hanging here, and I could get good sound, but it sounded to me like the EQ that was trying to make these speakers sound good built into the computer wasn't really removed when you plugged in externally, so you didn't have the correct EQ and you had to re-EQ. In a future program, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a Neumann mic on these speakers, and I'm going to run a frequency response test and let you know just how good these speakers are. But right now I can tell you that they're at best mediocre, and I know Beats Audio is supposed to be good, but when it went in this computer, it really wasn't good at all. So if I sound like I'm down on it, it's the person that's spent a lot of money trying to buy the best that they could buy and having a computer 6 weeks down the road after paying a lot of money on it, and it still doesn't work. And try and get HP support. Just try. I was able to get support from Cons, but their support was lift this heavy thing up, put it in your car, take it 30 miles down the road, and then leave it there for a week, and then they'll have it fixed for you. They do very little diagnoses, And I was led to believe, or I thought I was led to believe, that this would have in-home repair. That didn't happen. And so right now I'm massively disillusioned with HP, and 6 weeks down the road and I don't have a working brand new computer. And so that, you know, and I want to delve into this some more. I want to do a lot of analysis on it. So for our Tech Talks folks, this will be a good warning to you and a good lesson about, even if you buy what's supposed to be new and what's supposed to be the best, it might not be the best thing at all. This one still hasn't worked. I don't know if it will ever work successfully. And then I have to put in a lot of my hours, my personal man hours, working on this when it was brand new to make it work. And you know it's a big job to hunt down drivers that are supposed to be installed from the factory. And of course, the HP website is pretty much convoluted when it comes to finding the drivers for Envy. It's there, but when you actually go to download them, here's the trick. This won't connect on the internet because it doesn't have a driver. I have to go on another computer and figure out a way to get it in here. All right? When HP wants you to just turn it over to them, let them handle it. Well, if it doesn't connect to the internet because it doesn't have the driver, it's not going to work. So there you are. I appreciate you taking some time to listen to my talk here on Tech Talk with Paul and Al. And we'll just, this will be program 1, and we'll see how it goes. I appreciate your viewership, and be sure and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Thank you so much.